guys, it's Brooke from the Vintage Gardener. Welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year! I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. I certainly did. I didn't rest as much as I would have liked. I was doing projects around the house. You can kind of see my handiwork behind me. This stone wall was actually tan and brown. I limed it because I wanted to brighten up the family room. And I think you can tell it's a little, well, I can tell that it's a little bit lighter in here. It was a lot more gloomy. And now it's bright and light and fresh and just it's a more happy space. So now that Christmas is over, and yeah, I know, I gotta take down the wreath, it's time to start thinking about the spring garden. And so for those of you who aren't into gardening, you're probably just like, wait, it's January, like we haven't even really got into winter, like when you're already planning for your spring garden. Well, yeah, that's what gardeners do. Like, we don't wait till spring to start planning. We start planning in January, to be quite honest. A lot of times you start planning for your garden when the last season ends, and I'm no exception. I kind of started planning for this house because obviously even though I didn't move in until November, I was under market. I was under contract before that period of time. It took a little bit longer to get to the market, and you guys can consult the videos for why that happened. Anyway, for those of you who are new, you may not have realized that one of the reasons I started this channel is because I'm looking to eventually grow and sell plants. As a gardener, one of my biggest frustrations is that there's not a diversity in the market. There are plants that are beautiful that I would love to grow, but nobody sells them. So if you want them, you got to start them from seed. And I'll be the first to admit, sometimes starting things from seed can be a challenge. And so more with the perennials than annuals, though I would like to sell some more unusual annuals. With perennials, I have seed packets. They say, oh, you know, it's for zone 7A and that sort of thing. But you know what? I don't know if it's really going to do well or thrive here. If you've listened to any of my podcasts, you know that sometimes that information in terms of, you know, winter hardiness doesn't really tell you whether or not a plant is actually going to do well. If you haven't listened to the podcast, I'll post the link at the bottom of this video. I would urge you to go and listen to it. So one of the things I need to figure out, like if I'm going to sell perennials, I need to know what's actually going to work in zone A, southern New Jersey. So I'm going to be doing flower trials. So I'm going to be growing these things from seed, and I'm going to be trying them out in my garden. And so we're gonna do that. But in order for me to put them in the garden, I actually have to create a garden, because here at Wyldefell Manor, it's what I refer to as beauty base zero. There's nothing, like nothing. There's, you know, the beds that there are, they're just shrubs. There's no flowers. There's nothing. So on one hand, it's kind of like a little bit sad because it would have been nice to actually have something I could start with. But on the other hand, it's kind of nice because I'm not bound by what the prior owner did. So I'm starting everything from scratch. So it's going to be a ton of work. But for those of you who aren't used to gardening, that sort of thing, it helps you. And the reason it does is because one of the things I hear from people is like, I don't know where to start. Like, what do you mean plant a garden? Like, how do you do, like, you know, if you don't, how do you turn, you know, just bits of grass into something beautiful? So you're going to be watching my process from start to finish. So the first thing I do when I am trying to figure out I'm going to create a garden is I consider, like, is there a specific idea that I'm trying to give life to? Is there a purpose? Or is there a purpose? Because it doesn't have to be an idea. Sometimes it can be a purpose. And I'll give you an example. So Wyldefell Manor sits less than 50 feet away from the main street. It's maybe like 45. And when I say main, I mean it's a main street. It is a county route. It is a high speed limit. So there are a lot of cars going by. There's not really much privacy. So if I wanted to have, like, you know, a picnic and, you know, have people in the front, in the backyard, you know, everybody is driving by up in your business. Okay. There's no privacy. And so the first thing I was thinking is like, well, yeah, I really need some privacy. Now, at South Street, which is where I came from, I had a privacy hedge because I had a little bit of a nosy neighbor. And so that's what I want to do here. the other thing that I have to contend with in this house that I didn't have to do in my last house is my last house was on a dead-end street, so it was really low speed. This house, like I said, the main road is high speed. Also, depending upon what direction you're coming, my house is right after a curve. So since I'm a defense attorney and I do car accident cases for a living, my whole thing is, what happens if somebody loses control? There's nothing that's going to stop them if they jump the curb from getting to my house. So shrubs can help with that. And so you're going to see me planning out what types of shrubs to put there that are, number one, going to give me some privacy, and number two, if somebody jumps the curb, there's going to be a sufficient barrier that will slow down and hopefully, potentially stop a car from actually getting to my house, because obviously, as much as I would hate it if somebody destroyed my shrubs, it's a much bigger pain to deal with a destroyed house. So privacy. So that's going to be a garden, is the privacy hedge. Then the other thing is an idea. So I would love to have magnolias flanking my driveway. Now, what I had envisioned was like, that standard magnolia, which is like 25 feet high. That's not going to work where I am. And before I start actually really hardcore getting into everything, I am going to do a video tour so you guys can see what the outside, the grounds actually look like. If I had a drone, I'd show you guys an aerial shot. Unfortunately, I do not. But, so I have been doing some research. I've been researching plants, magnolias. There are dwarf magnolias that only top out at like 13 feet high. I saw one that I really liked, and so I'm going to have to scale it down because the driveway I thought I was going to have is not what I actually have. So it's the distance is shorter, but I can do something with that. So you're going to see me put that into practice. The other thing is that I like to grow my own fruits and vegetables. And one thing I can tell you about having a vegetable garden is that when it really gets going and it's productive, it looks like a jungle. Okay, in my last house, my vegetable garden got so out of control. And granted, that was the year that I was on medication for a medical issue, and I did not have the energy to stay on top of things. But it was so out of control. It looked like a jungle. I could see like cucumbers and tomatoes in there. I was not going to go in there and get them because I had found a snake skin in there. So I was not about to stumble upon a snake. And that's how overgrown, like you wouldn't have been able to see it. And so to help combat that, I'm going to do what's called a potager garden, which is a French vegetable garden. But when they do their garden, it's kind of like, on one hand, it's a vegetable garden, but then it's kind of English cottagey, almost like cutting gardening. So it's like you have vegetables plus ornamental plants, and the way you design this vegetable garden is it's very artistic looking. So there's geometric shapes and that sort of thing. And so that's one of the things I'm going to do, because I would like to have a vegetable garden, but I just can't, run the risk of, you don't want to walk out and to be like, oh, here's a monkey swinging because it looks like a jungle. So hopefully having a potager will kind of keep everything a little bit contained. So the way I plan my gardens, and I know I mentioned it in one of the videos, and if you're on YouTube, there is a playlist that I'm going to be putting the garden planning videos under. I use graph paper. I am spatially challenged. If I try to take a blank sheet of paper and draft a garden and try to put it outside, it ain't gonna work in any shape, form, or fashion. It's gonna look a hot mess. I need the structure of the graph paper. I need to know that each of those little boxes is a 1 by 1, 1 by 1 is a foot square, like a 1 square foot. Like I need that. And if you've never gardened before, you might find it useful to use graph paper, so you can plot things out, kind of see how things look. Also, you can kind of, you can see things like, are my my walkways too narrow for the beds and that sort of thing. I think it'll be easier to actually implement a garden if you have a very specific layout where you can say, okay, I'm measuring from this point, and I know from this point I need to start, 12 and a half feet, because that's what's on my plans. So I hope you guys follow me along for the journey. I'm not going to tell you which garden I'm doing first. You guys will have to wait and see. But I think it'll be an exciting journey, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So I will see you guys on Saturday with a new video. Bye!